Welcome everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Open Calls Network webinars, where we will be focusing on open calls for the space sector in the area of digital and industry today. Before we start, let me quickly go through the agenda. So I will be welcoming you, as I'm doing right now, and introducing the logistics of this call. And then we have another welcome by the Netherlands Space Office. Then we have two speakers who will talk about some solutions that they have developed in the area of the topic of digital and industry. After that, we will be looking at how Horizon Europe works, what calls are available specifically for digital and industry, by Andrei, and then we will have a pitch by a company called Revolve Space. We'll learn about them for about 1 minute, and after that we'll go into networking, and I'll explain how that works in a bit. But first of all, let me take you quickly through logistics of this webinar. Please use the chat. Use the chat to introduce yourself to everyone. Use the chat to share your LinkedIn profile. This is, after all, a networking session more than anything else. So please share your LinkedIn profile, and also ask all your questions in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye out on the questions in the chat. Questions you have for the speakers, please put them in the chat so we can see them and ask the speakers. For viewers on LinkedIn, you can watch everything, all the presentations. We will cut off the live stream once we go into networking, because unfortunately through LinkedIn that is not really possible. But you can still join us on Zoom for free to network with us, and join us on Zoom instead of LinkedIn. Just go to the website that you see here, opencalls.space, to quickly register. You'll get the Zoom link, and you can join us on Zoom if you want to participate in the networking. Everybody who registers for this, whether you're joining us live or you'll be watching the replay, you will receive all the presentations, and also the replay of this webinar itself will be posted on YouTube, and you'll get a notification of that. In the meantime, you can contact us for anything, any questions you have during the webinar, after the webinar, to get in touch with the speakers, to get in touch with us, to get in touch about anything you hear during the webinar. info@groundstation.space. Now, as I said, networking is the prime objective of this session. So after we have gone through the plenary session, you'll be able to join the speakers and each other in breakout rooms here on Zoom after the presentations are finished. And we'll keep this call open as long as needed, but we're counting on about 5:30 Central European time. Now, there's other options to network with us more in general. We have an Open Calls Network LinkedIn page, so please all go to LinkedIn and follow the Open Calls Network page, where you will find announcements for webinars, articles about interesting calls, and other relevant information if you are interested in working with Horizon Europe and other calls requiring space data. And obviously follow us on social media. Groundstation is on all these media that you see here on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Also follow the Netherlands Space Office on all these channels to make sure that you're up to date on everything. Now, the objectives of the Open Calls Network, that is a collaboration between the Netherlands Space Office and Groundstation.space, is really to select these space sector opportunities in Horizon Europe and potentially other relevant funding calls. That is, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different funding opportunities, and what we do in Open Calls is really select the opportunities that are relevant for use with space data. Another objective is to highlight knowledge and expertise of the Dutch space sector. We work with the Netherlands Space Office, really with the idea to connect the Dutch space sector with the European space sector in consortia to write proposals for these Horizon Europe calls. Where can you find this? Well, you can find this on the website opencalls.space. That brings us to the special section of the website, and that's the first element that the Open Calls Network really consists of. And this is where you will find the details on these selected calls. So what you'll find on the opencalls.space network, it's typed slightly incorrectly here. The link is opencalls.space. You find this selection of calls, and not just the short description, but on each of these calls, you'll find a fact sheet, a PDF that you can download, which has all the relevant information, the opening date, the close date, the size, the basic requirements, the description of all these funding calls on a single page for you to benefit from. Now, that's the first element of the network. The second element, well, that's why we're here this afternoon. It's a series of webinars. We're organizing several webinars this year, a number before the summer break, then we'll break for summer in July and August, well, after the 5th of July, and then we'll come back in September with a new series. And each of these webinars is organized around a certain theme, all relevant for space data, but highlighting different elements of the Horizon Europe goals. So today we're talking about digital industry. Last week we talked about climate neutral and smart cities, so specific applications for cities. And next week we'll be looking at specifically at safety and defense. So those are the topics before summer and after summer. You can find them on our website, and we will announce them to you if you have registered for the LinkedIn page and for the Open Calls Network newsletter that you can sign up for on our website. So that is as far as my introduction is concerned. So going back to the agenda, I would now like to hand it over to Raymond Sluiter, who will welcome you on behalf of the Netherlands Space Office. So Raymond, please unshare my screen. Raymond, I can't hear you. Is that me?
There's no audio.
Ah, I can hear you.
Yeah, Raymond showing is muted.
I think you're muted, Raymond.
Hello, everybody.
Ah, yes.
Here am I, together with my slides. So can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slide.
Okay, yes. Welcome, everybody. At least here in the Netherlands, it's a very sunny afternoon. Yes, as Remco already indicated, we see a lot of opportunities in Horizon Europe. And who am I? I am Raymond Sluiter from Netherlands Space Office. And I'm an expert in the program committee of Digital Industry and Space, DIS, in the Destination 5 space. And there I'm working on the programmatics and the policy of this part of Horizon Europe. So actually we are shaping there, together with the Commission, the work programs. And that work program is part of a big Horizon Europe program in different pillars. And in this overview, you see the opportunities for space along all these pillars. For example, there are opportunities in research infrastructures. The European Innovation Council has opportunities, and within Pillar 2, the Research and Development Program, where we have six clusters. There we see opportunities in the digital industry and space. That's today's topic, the topic of today. And we see, for example, opportunities in climate, energy, and mobility, but also in food and environment. And sometimes there are even opportunities in the first clusters, like health. There are many opportunities, and that's why we organize these webinars thematic. So in the last week, we had a webinar on smart cities, and that addressed many topics outside the digital industry and space topic. Okay, how does that digital industry and space topic looks like? It's very important to realize that the goal is an open strategic autonomy in developing, deploying, and using global space-based infrastructures, services, and applications and data. And within this destination, we have several themes. And this is based on the work program of 21 and 22, which is currently running, but the topics will not change a lot in the 23 and 24 work program. Okay, theme 1 is really an upstream theme. It's on technology development, for example, electric propulsion, end-to-end satellite communication systems. And theme 2 is also it's called Reinforce EU Capacity to Access and Use Space, and it's also an upstream topic, for example, on propulsion and reusability of launchers. There is a third theme that's on the Earth observation, and that's the evolution of the Copernicus services. And one of the new services will be the Copernicus Anthropogenic CO2 emission monitoring verification support. Nice title. That will be made for the upcoming Sentinel CO2M, which will measure CO2. And then there is and I have to move you a little bit because you're on blocking my screen. Then we have many themes and topics that the first 3 themes are directly in the work program, and they are directly executed by the European Commission, but also they let manage some topics by the ESA and by USPA. And examples of this are, for example, the space entrepreneurship and new space, and programs like large-scale Copernicus data uptake with artificial intelligence and high-performance computing. And these are managed by USPA. But we also have some that are managed by ESA, for example, regarding space weather, the Cassini in orbit demonstration and validation service, which had a call that closed a few weeks ago, and things like GovSatcom and things like Cassini prizes. Many things related to Cassini, they are managed by USPA, the European Space Program Agency. And so this is really complicated, and there are many different themes and not all at the same time. And this is exactly where we asked the dotSPACE to start the open calls. Already they invited them themselves, but we really want to use the open calls website to give more insight in all these calls and all these topics that are around and that are of interest of space. Okay, and that concludes my introduction.
Okay, thank you, Raymond. That was very good. So people can contact you if they have questions about how this works, how to find partners, how to find the calls. If they can't find them through the open calls dotSPACE network, they can contact you directly.
Yes, they can contact me indeed, but they can also contact my colleague at RVO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, because there's a so-called national contact point for space, and his name is Frank Winters. And while I am working more on the programmatics and the policy side, he can really help you with writing proposals and to see if your proposal meets the requirements, and he can also help you to review your potential partners, and he knows everything about making good proposals and how you can have success in Horizon Europe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So if you can bring up the introduction slide now, for the next speaker, if you can bring up the slides, please, Dimitris. And then we will introduce the next speaker. And go to the next slide. Oh, I can do that myself. What am I saying? No, apparently I can't. And the next one from this, because we heard from Raymond. Very well, thank you very much. So, introducing the next speaker. Our next speaker is Gerard Rauweda. Gerard Rauweda is a business developer at Technolution and will tell us everything about the role that Technolution is playing in space in the area of digital industry. So, Gerard, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my screen.
Share.
Let's see. I guess you now see my screen.
Yep, we can see this.
And the logo pops up.
It does.
Great. So thank you for the introduction. I'm the business developer at Technolution, or one of the business developers, I must say. My interest is in the high-tech industry and big science. Just a quick introduction in Technolution. Very quick, but we are a company in the Netherlands with around 250 people. We have a lot of expertise in electronics development, embedded software development, programmable logic development. And we offer research and development to our customers, services to our customers like supply chain management, lifecycle management. If you would like to know more than just ask me, I will just show a couple of examples of what we do for our customers and where our interests are for the digital industry, but also for space technologies. So Technolution, we are a Dutch company. But we are actually active all over the world. So we have 3 offices in the Netherlands. We have activities in Denmark, in Sweden, in the UK, and also in the United States of America. But okay, let's now focus on what we do for the high-tech industry sector. And that's what we do with our brand Technolution Advance. Where with Technolution Advance, we actually develop solutions for the advanced high-tech and big science systems, such as data acquisition and data processing systems, or image processing systems and image analysis systems. And there, of course, we apply our electronics development, our embedded software development, programmable logic development, and a good portion of systems engineering to come up with great solutions for complex problems. Just a couple of examples are, for instance, a high-speed data processing for a metrology system, where we help as a technical developer Near-Field Instruments. Near-Field is an incubator from TNO, and they develop atomic force microscopy solutions to scan silicon wafers for the semiconductor manufacturing. And our expertise is in the machine on the high-speed data acquisition and data control of the atomic force microscopy solutions. Other examples are, and it looks like my videos are not working. Another example is we are working on the development together with the Delmic, a startup company from the University of Delft, on a multi-beam electron microscope. This is really a revolution in the field. The 64 electron beams are actually scanning biological tissue, and with this electron microscope, people can scan tissue 100 times faster than with conventional single beam electron microscopes. And again, we are working on the high-speed electronics to do the data acquisition, to control the beams, etc. So there's a lot of expertise inside, but also we take care about the data storage and data management, because a lot of data comes out of this machine, and at the end, you would like to get your information out of the data. Then another example is where we ported operating systems, small operating systems, the ThreadX operating system, for a RISC-V processor, just as an example. Talking about RISC-V, Technolution is actually one of the founders of the RISC-V Foundation, which was founded in 2015, 2016. Maybe you heard about RISC-V. RISC-V is an open standard. It's an open standard instruction set architecture of a processor. It is not open source. You could implement it and make the processors open source, but it's not necessarily open source. And so RISC-V offers an open standard for collaboration, where there is a default instruction set defined for the computer architecture. There's also instruction set extensions defined, and people could also implement their custom instructions. I will come to the advantages later, why we are so happy with this development and why we also use this development. And what you see nowadays is that the RISC-V community embraces a rich ecosystem with software development tools and a lot of processor implementations. And why we chose for this RISC-V architecture is it gives us a lot of flexibility, but also portability and transparency. And I will come to that later. So we have implemented RISC-V processor IP. We call it Frenox. It's actually a RISC-V processor family that's 100% developed at Technolution. It has no dependencies on open source implementations. It's fully implemented by us. And we also have validated it in the Intel signings, I should say AMD nowadays, microsemi or microchip, and NanoExplore FPGA devices. So we actually have validated this with all kinds of FPGA devices that are around. And this computer architecture, so the RISC-V processing architecture, we use nowadays in products for secure line encryption, say in hardware VPN solution, which we as Technolution have developed, and which is also listed in the or which is NATO and EU restricted. So it could do data protection on all kinds of protection levels, from confidential up to secret and top secret protection. What is important there is that you would like to see the data encryption and the crypto algorithms implemented in hardware logic, not in software, but the control flow around you would like to implement in software. And there is where we bring in our RISC-V processors, because we have a full understanding of our custom implementation of the RISC-V processor, but we could also show transparency to the customer or the evaluator, for instance. And another advantage of using RISC-V in our case is that we could also provide lifecycle management. For instance, if there's an FPGA device, our device is obsolete, then we could choose an FPGA from a different vendor, but we could still use the same RISC-V implementation. So we could port the design easily to other vendors, and so in this way show transparency to our customers. To go a step further, so we have developed the RISC-V processors for our security business line, but we also see that in Europe there is a need for European non-dependence, as they call it. So critical space technology should be developed in Europe, and we are lucky that there is a European radiation-hardened FPGA available from the French company NanoExplore. So we have also implemented our RISC-V processors in the radiation-hardened NanoExplore FPGA devices, and we have demonstrated that we could port the RISC-V processor, and they also work. So if you're interested, we have some demos available, and we could show you we could show you that. Okay, so as I mentioned, my colleagues from Technolution Prime, they are actually the technical market leaders in the high assurance security applications. They have a product line with a couple of line encryption products, but also with the data diodes to separate networks, for instance. And within all those solutions, we use a combination of hardware and software, and the software is running on the RISC-V processor implementations. But now going back to space, so we do a lot of high-tech developments for the industry and also for security, defense related stuff. We could also bring this kind of technology to the space domain. And I will now give an example of a project Technolution is working on together with NLR, the Netherlands Aerospace Center. And this is a project commissioned by the Netherlands Space Office. It's a so-called SPIR project, where we will develop control and data processing electronics for instruments for small satellites. What you actually see on this slide is, on the one hand, there are the big traditional satellites. I hope you can see my mouse pointer. So at the right top, you see a traditional big satellite. On the left side, left top, we see a small CubeSat or a nano satellite. And what you see here is at the right, the traditional satellites, they are robust, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money to develop highly reliable, robust satellites. On the other hand, we have the CubeSats developed from commercial components, no guarantees about reliability, etc. But in between, there is a sweet spot of satellites becoming bigger compared to the CubeSats, and with satellites from in the microsat and the minisat segment becoming larger. They are becoming also a little bit more expensive, and we understand that there is a need, if you have larger satellites, that you would like to have an in-orbit lifetime of at least 5 years, so 5 to 10 years, so to say, which is sometimes possible with CubeSats, but there is no guarantee whether those small satellites will last for a long time in orbit. So that's why we started the development together with NLR to develop control and data processing electronics that can last for more than 5 to 10 years in orbit, where we will do a trade-off of high quality and reliability, look at radiation hardened components, radiation tolerant components, or even a mix with commercial components, and provide flexibility to the instrument developer, so that he has the flexibility at design time, so that he can customize the electronics with his needs, but also in-orbit reconfiguration possibilities, and for the longer term in-orbit edge computing, like image processing in space, but also encryption in space. In order to give the instrument developer instrument autonomy, so that he could develop his instrument and just hook it onto a small set platform. So how will it look like? We know some small set use cases which are interesting. We have here a satellite that scans the Earth, and that will detect, for instance, oil leakage of a ship, or therefore it needs to do some processing in the satellite. We need to do data reduction, or you could reconfigure the satellite so that it could detect, for instance, ships with refugees on an ocean. And what is important, you would like to do this at real time, because if you detect a ship with oil leakage, you need to respond directly. We cannot just do offline processing and 1 month later say, hey, we detected the ship, because then we're too late. So latency is also important in this perspective. Other developments we see with smallsats is smallsat constellations. So use multiple satellites to detect anomalies from space. So, for instance, scan the Earth, and then later on instruct another satellite to zoom in into an area, like the use cases for Tropomi nowadays. But for Tropomi, with Tropomi, what's happening, we can of course monitor the emissions, but then there needs to be some offline processing, and you need to offline instruct another satellite to zoom into an area and to detect who is actually doing the gas emissions, or who was a violator. With the constellation space, it will be possible that you have distributed satellites and they just cooperate as a system. But that needs also a lot of processing in space again. So adds processing in space, AI, in order to reduce latency again. Then what we will also see is that encryption becomes important for a satellite. Why? Because you would like to encrypt the instrument data, because we're living in a world of data, and data are critical, but data are also valuable. So you don't want that data is accessible to everybody. So encryption of data is needed in space. And with this upcoming constellations as a service or satellites as a service, as we have more small sats in space, we also should think about how to protect the data for multiple users, how that multiple users can use the same satellites to do their experiments. So these are issues we are looking at the moment, which will be covered by our study together with NLR to develop the control and data processing electronics. And in the end, yeah, we would like to focus on a control and data processing unit with some important onboard features. So science data encryption, but also to care about data compression and filtering. So we need a lot of processing power in space, but also at the right balance of radiation hardened or not radiation hardened. Critical components should be radiation hardened, for instance. And for the longer term, everybody is talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and that could be a means to do data processing in space. And obviously, if we go for a longer in-orbit lifetime, then also in-orbit reconfigurability becomes important. Remote access to your firmware and to your instruments, remote updates and remote diagnostics functions. So those are some keywords where we have an interest to focus on with collaborative R&D programs. In the end, the CDPU, the control and data processing unit, will have a look like this. So we have a small sat platform, and we can connect universal sensors to it. We have the bridging logic in between the sensor and the platform. This bridging logic is actually what we call the control and data processing unit, which is a modular build design, where we will have some core processing unit. There could be some optional processing units, maybe at a different quality level or different reliability level. And we will have interface modules to interface the CDPU with different sensors, depending on the needs of what kind of interfaces are needed, and also a module to connect to the spacecraft platform. And our idea is that we could reuse a lot of knowledge and know-how that we have already have from ground equipment, like the multi-beam electron microscope development, atomic force microscopy. There we have a lot of expertise with the HL electronics development, modular electronics development, and we could bring this to a level that it can also be used for space. So
okay, we're running a little bit out of time, Gerard. So if you
okay,
could,
this is my last slide. So to summarize, the R&D interests for us are on data processing, controllers, secure controllers. We really see that the RISC-V processors will come up. So space technologies for European non-dependence. I could also think about smart photonics and quantum communication as possible topics. So thank you. Sorry for my long presentation.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you very much. You kind of answered my questions in your presentation. So if it's okay with you, I will move over to the next speaker straight away, and we'll keep potential questions to the end. So if we stop sharing this one and put up the introduction slide for Andy, then I'll really quickly introduce Dr. Andy Court, who's a principal business developer at TNO. So without further ado, Andy, I would like to hand it over to you.
Okay, let's see if I can share my screen.
Can you unshare, Dimitris?
Right, I'm just going to go view somewhere here. View, oops, sorry, on screen mode. Okay, so I hope everybody can see my presentation.
Yep, you can see this perfectly fine, Andy. Go ahead.
I hope. Okay, let's go through it. So I want to say something about what topics of interest we have from Horizon Europe so far at TNO. It's not an exhaustive list. If you know TNO at all, you realize that we're a huge multidisciplinary technology research organization. And I'm just looking really at two units, industry and the circular economy and environment units, where we have done some Horizon Europe topics in relation to space, but we also do many other Horizon Europe topics in other areas as well, for energy transition and automotive and other things. So for me, the main topics of interest for our unit industry are, well, as Gerard mentioned, photonics for space components. The first call that came out, we did not respond to it. We looked at it with various partners, but we weren't too happy with the call text. End-to-end Earth observation systems, you'd think should be a natural for an organization that develops spectrometers for atmospheric chemistry. However, in the current scope, it has it as a high precision optical sensing system. So again, I'm afraid not directly interesting, but I think we can design something for the future from that when we look at future work program calls in 23, 24 and beyond. Satellite communication. This is a very important area for us, both from the radio point of view. We have people in our defense area who work with radio antennas and receivers, but also much more recently, the laser SATCOM area. And that has really taken off. We have a number of developments with a variety of different customers for laser satellite communication terminals. And these are also going to be very important in future Horizon Europe projects. Quantum technology. Well, recently we won 2 contracts for pilot and test facilities under the framework program agreements. So we'll be writing proposals or leading proposals on those for new quantum technology. And we want to explore where this can also be relevant for space quantum sensors. And this is a direct topic that's in there for gravimetry, etc. In Horizon Europe as well, the Commission has started to pay for in-orbit demonstration, in-orbit verification missions for instruments or technologies which are at least at TRL 6. So that's quite well developed. We looked at it and we're not doing it this year, but I'd be very open to talk to people about what might be happening next year or what we could do next year. Because I'm sure that this would be a program that goes on throughout Horizon Europe. Finally, for topics of interest in our circular economy and environment, it's maybe not for this week, but Raymond, you did mention it. It's the CAMS, the Copernicus Atmospheric Monitoring Service. We have people in our circular economy and environment unit, and they've worked for a long time on different applications. So not raw data analysis, but generating actual applications for people to use. Moving on. More topics of interest. Well, these are things which have started to be discussed at the Commission, and where I think as the Netherlands, we need to take interest and put forward our ideas to the Commission through RVO, through the Team Iris Plankball groups. One strategy. Copernicus 2035. The Commission has started to investigate or ask what should be the next Earth observation systems to be developed. So beyond where we have the current set of Sentinels, and see what should be the ideas that they start to develop, and both between the Commission and ESA, beyond the final launch of the last Sentinel 10 or so, in about 2035. But there's another area which has suddenly become very topical, shall we say, because of the situation with Russia. There's a sudden realization, it seems, in the Commission that civil defense aspects of space have not had enough attention. That there's a lot of assets in space which need to either be protected or need to be always available in order for things like communication, secure communication, for example. So now there are strategies being developed for space situational awareness, space weather, space surveillance, space traffic management, and these are all moving forward. You can read the strategy papers on the Commission site, and I expect calls for those in the future Cluster 4 for 23-24, particularly in these SSA topics. Now, related to that, and again, it's kind of with quantum key distribution as well, these type of things, is secure connectivity. So reliable satellite communications, not only for military applications, but also, of course, for also civilian applications, banks or other entities who need to transfer secure confidential information. What I can see, again, from various papers that are now being circulated, is that European Defence Fund, the European Defence area, will have a lot of links and will link into the Horizon Europe Space RNI area for the future. And the only thing that I can say, which is an issue, is that there's no new money. So the funding of these initiatives is going to be an interesting exercise where they have to exchange funds from current areas inside Pillar 2, particularly, into these new topical areas. And it may mean that what we're looking at, not in 2022, but certainly in work programs for 23-24, I can imagine that there may be some areas that we would like to have there which will disappear. But we have to see. And this all comes down to the way in which we can lobby, how we can influence things. Yeah, so it's the same thing. So what I want to cover quickly is that there are two routes by which the space area can be somewhat influenced by industries or by institutes like ourselves, not only through Raymond and NSO and the RVO. There are two routes which give stakeholder consultation to industry directly. One is called STARS EU. This is a CSA action by the Commission. For those of you who know it, it's a kind of follow-on from what was called the STEP project, which helped establish the basis for the space partnership, which is the next thing that I'll explain. And it's a CSA. It's led by Space Tech in Germany. And it has a number of work packages inside it, but the one that's most interesting is the consultation of the space RNI stakeholders, so work package 4. Now, STARS EU, you can find it website on the internet if you Google it, and through that you can join up to their emailing lists, etc., and start to receive information, and also join into their webinars in order to give feedback. Now, space as a whole has a budget allocated to it by the Commission. And at the moment, the STARS EU covers all of those areas of Horizon Europe Space. That is until a new space partnership should be established. And that is in process. It's something which is going forward with a number of associations, which I'll come on to next. So now, there is a a space partnership that would be established between the Commission and an association. It's called Global Competitive Space Systems. It helped the original STEP program generated the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda relevant to space. After this had been reviewed within the Commission and also by member states, it was decided to select particular parts of the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda that would be implemented through the partnership. And these concern the areas. If you look in the work program, you'll see these titles in there. So foster competitiveness of space systems, future space ecosystems, so on-orbit operations, new industrial process and product tools, and reinforce access to space, disruptive concept. Out of those, certain selective things have been decided that they should be available for the partnership to help the Commission to determine what is in there, both from industrial, but also from research sides. They've allocated a proportion of the budget for space of 250 million euros over 5 years in the period between 2023 and 2027, with the expectation that the final projects will last until 2030. How does it look? Well, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but on the right-hand side, there's the Commission. And there will be a memorandum of understanding which establishes the basis of the partnership, and then various boards, including state representatives, an advisory committee from outside independent people, and a partnership board formed by the partners inside the association. The association of associations will be called SPACE, and presently the founding members is Eurospace, SME for Space, representing the industrial side, and then 3 research-related associations, ESRA, which is the research establishment. So, for example, in the Netherlands, that's NLR. I'll say the next one, EASN, which is an association of universities interested in aerospace and space. And finally, in the middle is something called EASTRO, which is the European Association of Space Technology Research Organizations. It's a new association that's being created specifically for RTOs like TNO, and it will include other entities like Fraunhofer, VTT, Technalia, to name a few. And together, these 5 associations will create this one association and sign this MOU with the Commission, we hope, later this year, and kick off the partnership finally. So what are the general principles of such a partnership? And this is general to all things. The partners develop some initial draft roadmaps. They exchange with the SRG on the basis of the initial reflections. We realize roadmaps, we pass them into the partnership board, and that passes them on to the Commission. In between, while there is this SRG who will make a review and give an opinion to the Commission. So this is the state representatives group, so the member states. So they have an influence, and this is to provide a check that the partnership is not conflicting with national interests or with the programs already established by, for example, ESA. The Commission then gets these roadmaps, and then on the basis of that, they draft the work program with their own internal processes. So all this helps to formulate quite a large part of the work program for the future space calls that will be taking place. And I think it is something I want to bring to the attention of everybody here, because it's somewhere that people can join into. The partnership has 5 associations as founding members, but any industry, any other entity can also ask to join this partnership and therefore have an influence on the future work programs through this entity. So it gives a variety of routes. As I say, there's through RVO, there's through NSO, and through the partnership, that it's possible to express interests in your particular technologies and get them into the work programs. Okay. And that's it. If anybody has any questions or would like to contact me, my email address is here. And I'll be very happy also later, once we've discussed specific calls, to hear from people who would like to join in. Okay, that's everything. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy, for that good insight into how the European Commission works, the complexity of some of these of these deals, but also by sharing the types of collaborations that TNO would be looking for in potential consortium partners. So that would also constitute my question. So you've answered that really nicely. So so thank you very much. I'll refer other questions that people may have to you after the last two
Perfect.
presentations, if that's okay with you. Thank you very much. So with that said, I would like to move over to our next speaker, which is my colleague Andrei Bocin-Dumitriu, who is one of our senior project managers at dotSPACE, and who will explain to us a little bit how Horizon Europe works, which calls we have prepared in the area of digital industry, and how people can get involved with these. So Andrei, without further ado, over to you, please.
Thank you, Remco. That's a nice image. I don't even remember taking this photo, but that's the wonder of digital world. So yeah, I'm actually located in IHE Delft. This is a very nice institution in Delft, the Netherlands, participating to a General Assembly project. So I'm trying to present to you all snapshots about the calls they identify as possible venues for collaboration for Dutch companies, institutions for research, but also for partners from abroad. Some of the things that have been already said by Raymond, so I'll just brush them off in a quick way. Specifically, Raymond introduced you about Horizon Europe, and Horizon Europe is actually a continuation of Horizon 20, the research and innovation funding program by European Commission. Horizon Europe started on 2021, and the cycle will go up to 2027. The only additional thing besides the pillars and the missions and the themes that Raymond presented, I only want to give you a snapshot of what kind of funding has been made available to these research funnels. So you see that pillar number 2 that has been mentioned and then nominated gets quite a lot of funding within these 7 years of research and innovation working program. So now looking at the Horizon calls, how we can actually read these calls and how we can actually read the idea of such a call. So basically what you have on the screen now on the right, it's how a call would normally be listed in the work program. So what you can identify straightforward from the title is, for example, in this call from OSPA, which is one of the programs that are involved in cluster digital industry and space. You will immediately identify after Horizon which cluster it belongs. So in this case, it's, as I said, digital industry and space. Then it follows the year of the work program, and then you would have actually the destination of this call. So in this case is destination number 5, which is specific to space. Now I'm not gonna go into more details because Raymond already said what does it mean destination number 5, but I put here on this slide a useful link, Horizon Europe Info Days. Those Info Days, they are very informative session held by the Commission and the project manager and project leaders that work with the Horizon Europe programs, where they inform what they expect from these calls. So it's very useful to keep an eye on these Info Days. And then specifically the link that you have here, it is Horizon Europe Info Days, which details very much about what does it mean and then what are the ins and outs of applying for Horizon Europe project. For the previous, during the previous session, we had also, I put some links for specific calls, but due to the fact that the digital, the calls that we shortlisted for this session, very few of them, they are still open, and they will be open in a couple of days, in 2 days. I don't have any info days because those info days that didn't happen. or they are not planned yet. But these are the calls that we shortlisted from the work program of 21 and 22. I have to say that the work program it's been working cycles of 2 years. So now we are at the end of a cycle, the cycle of 2021 and 2022. And then we start soon, and there's already been published the work program for 2023 and 2024. So I think some of these calls that already been introduced as priorities and also as introduced as themes of focus. Raymond mentioned, for example, large-scale Copernicus data uptake with artificial intelligence and high-performance computers. So these are the 3 calls that we identify still yet in the Horizon Europe 2021-2022. You have the opening day. If you click on the blue title, then you will be redirected to our open calls, fact sheets, and then you can retrieve information for each call in one page. So this is actually something that it's very useful at this moment, because these calls, they will start to appear starting in 2023. So starting from January 2023 and then going along the 2-year cycle. So these calls are actually, you have to look very close into the work program, which is normally a document of 700 pages, for example, for this. But these calls are also coming from some other cluster. They can come from cluster number 3, from cluster number 4, so from other areas. So we did that for you, and then we selected 24 calls at this moment. So this is the list of these calls. There are 24 calls, and again, if you want to retrieve more information about these specific calls, Groundstation.space, with the support of the dotSPACE office, prepare these fact sheets for each of these calls, and then you can retrieve in a snapshot all the information you want, from information about if it's a research and innovation action, that means a lower TRL, or it is an innovation action, which is a higher TRL. Also, you will get information about how much budget has been allocated, how many projects are expected to be funded, and then also information about when it's expected to be open. So these are basically 3 pages, as I said, 24 calls. Please go on our website. You can also use this website, this presentation, in order to be redirected there. Here I also see, for example, the SST, networking and security and data sharing. This has been mentioned before by Andy, but also I think has been mentioned by the previous speaker. So we scan for you all these calls that are relevant for space from different angles and different location in the value chain. We speak about payload, we speak about communication, we also speak about application or value-added services. So we put all these sectors of the value chains, they are all in this table. So this is how a fact sheet actually looks. Remco already introduced them. These are two fact sheets for example, 2 calls that were shortlisted earlier. Now, an indication that working and then actually applying for Horizon Europe proposal. Once you identify the call, then you have to go and actually write the proposal. I would like to draw your attention about a very important tool, or a very important addition. It's basically the canvas of the project, and you should pay very much attention to this canvas, because it's going to help you a lot to write the proposal, but also to see if you're align your proposal with what actually the proposal, the call requests. Now, what Groundstation.space also offers maybe a possibility to search for new partners and then possibility of networking. And then we did that by also collecting all the major companies working in the space domain, and we did this exercise for the Netherlands. So there were 2 space industry maps being published by Groundstation.space, one of the Netherlands and the other one of the space ecosystem in the Czech Republic. For those who don't know yet, why Czech Republic? Because Czech Republic became a very important pinpoint in the space sector, because the new agency, European Agency for Space program, is located in Prague at this moment. So these are also linkable images, so you can be redirected to this space industry maps, and there you can identify possible partners and companies within these two countries' ecosystem. Now, further general information, as Raymond specified in the beginning, indeed the Dutch Enterprise Agency, RVO, they have the national contact points and their advisors, and they will help you into writing the proposal, not actually writing, but actually giving you very important advices, what you should write in there, but also they will review for you and tell you should move one side or the other in order to fit the requirements of the call. Though, of course, this is only valid for Dutch organization, because RVO works and represents the interests of Dutch organization, Dutch companies. Where you can start searching for the calls, I would say starting first with the Groundstation.space open calls webpage, because there we already listed the space-related calls, but also you can do and can retrieve more information about what are actually all the annexes, all the requirements. You can do that by European Commission funding and tender opportunities system, which is called Single Electronic Data Exchange Area, and there in SEDIA you can find and then all the calls and tenders. And then, as I mentioned previously, Commission is very generous in open up their minds and open up their brains. So in such a way, you can understand what they actually want with these calls and what they actually expect to be delivered within this research and innovation projects. And then they organize this. They organize these open days. So please do check their program from time to time. For example, there's been yesterday very interesting info days about the Disaster Resilience Society, where Copernicus data is also being specified, and they expect also a lot of project focusing on remote sensing data to contribute here. So that would be my contribution here from the beautiful sunny Delft and UNESCO Institute for Water Research.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrei. That was a lot of information on a lot of slides. So we'll be sharing your presentation with everyone, so you can actually click on all those links that you forwarded us and get in touch with us. One quick question before we move on. What can Groundstation.space, what can our organization mean for people who are interested in forming a consortium or starting to write a proposal?
So yeah, Groundstation is a broker. So basically, it tries to bring together players from the space sector, but also bringing companies from outside the space sectors and bringing also relevant stakeholders from public administration. So it's really we are in a place where all these stakeholders can meet, and then we have a lot of tools and a lot of means to provide this interaction between the space sector, but also outside the bubble of the space sector. We provide master series on Copernicus, where you can also kick off and then brainstorm a project canvas, for example. We also provide open calls webinar, and also we are involved already in several European projects, so we know what it is, and then we understand what does it mean to be part of this project. So we can also provide. You can also become partner of the project, and then of course we broker this for the Dutch Space Office, meaning that we are here to make the exchange of information and then create new consortia, having Dutch companies in consortia applying for European Horizon Europe project, not only. It will be the case, for example, for next session when we're going to look at the defense and security, and then the calls will not be only from Horizon Europe, but also from other funding mechanisms of the European Commission. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to move over to the very last presentation. So Marco, I hope you are ready. I didn't see a presentation, but
if you're online, can you please
Yes.
mute yourself and maybe show
Hi.
yourself, and then let us
Can
know what you
you
have
hear
to say. Yes, yes. I
Okay,
can hear you.
perfect. Then I'll proceed to share the screen.
Okay. And you have about a minute. It's called a 1 minute presentation for a reason. So thanks
Yeah,
for keeping it short.
Can you confirm that you see the slides?
Yes, we can
Yeah,
see it.
perfect. Then hi everybody. My name is Marco, and I'm one of the co-founders of Revolve Space. At Revolve Space, we are addressing the problem of downtime in satellite operation. So CubeSat are there for a long time, but only a fraction of this time is actually spent on data generation. And we want to change this. The way that we want to change it is by building a component for CubeSat, a solar array drive assembly that rotates the solar panels and tracks autonomously the sun. We're also developing a software that uses the same hardware, the rotating solar panels, so that we can enable the next generation of in-space mobility. We complement propulsion module from third parties with our own aerodynamics maneuver. Thank you for your attention. We are Revolve, and our mission is to give CubeSat superpowers. So if you find this interesting, please reach out to me at marco@revolvespace.com.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much, Marco, for doing this in a minute. And explaining technology in a minute is not easy. So I really appreciate this. Let me ask you real quick. What are you looking for in partners in potential Horizon Europe projects?
We of course are really interested in explore different opportunities. There is indeed a lot of programs, so we would really like to partner up, or at least explore if there is some programs that really fit our schedule. So we don't want, of course, to go off track, but we are sure that there could be something that really brings us forward faster.
Okay, excellent. Where are you based? Where's your company based?
We are in Delft.
In Delft. Okay. Okay. Very good. Another Dutch company. We like to see.
No, yes, we are Dutch.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your introduction, Marco. And I will share, well, 2 more slides before we move over to the networking. And one of the slides is about the networking. But before we go there, I would like to ask your attention for next week's webinar, the last one in the series before summer, which, as has already been said a few times, will focus on safety and defense. Tuesday, the 5th of July, so exactly a week from now, same time, 4 o'clock CET. You can register through our website for that now, and we're hoping to see you there. The next slide. Now it is time to, well, open up your microphone, open up your camera, and meet potential partners, talk about your business, talk about your ideas, see if you can find commonalities and points where you can really start getting into the details of these Horizon Europe projects and benefiting from all these different opportunities that you've seen in the last hour. So with that, I would like to, well, to hand it over to my colleagues who will set up a few breakout rooms if needed, and really open up the floor to all of you. So again, unmute yourself, introduce yourself, make sure you do that on the chat, put in your LinkedIn as well, and hand it over to all of you. So thank you very much for your attention.